This conversation is with parents who lost both of their sons to pediatric cancer, just 10 months apart. We want you to know this story is not told from a place of despair. It is a story rooted in love, in honor, and in the deep commitment to carry their children's names, their spirit, and their legacy forward while helping others along the way. This is episode 1 of a Hope for a Cure podcast, carrying their son's legacy forward. Hey guys, welcome to our very first episode of a Hope for a Cure podcast. You know what, Jason? I can't believe we are actually doing this.
Yes, we actually are. I am so excited. This is very exciting, very exciting.
It is. Well, I'm Latanya Morrison, your host, and I am joined by my co-host, Jason Collins. And you know, this podcast exists for one reason, and that's to take the fight to pediatric cancer. You know, we need to do it together. And we're creating a space where families who are in the fight can be seen, heard, and supported in the ways they need to be. A space that reflects the real life battle of that pediatric cancer puts these families through. The fear, the strength, the heartbreak, the hope, the hopelessness, the determination, all of that is what it takes to just keep going. And here we're not just going to talk the talk, we are going to walk the walk, guys. We are calling people to action. We're showing you what you can do and how you can help and how we can stop fighting this disease in silos and start fighting it and coming together as a united force. The podcast also is for families who are currently in the fight. You know, there are families who have lost a child to pediatric cancer, families who are in survivorship, and anyone who wants to know and do more than offer sympathy. It's for those who want to understand and for those who already do. We'll have hard conversations. We'll share real stories. And yes, we will laugh. We will smile. And there will definitely be some tears along the way. But above all, this space exists to build you up and remind you that none of us are fighting alone. And when I say you, I mean families who are in the middle of their battle. You are not alone. And we can't just say that. We need to do it. So, Jason, how's that for something powerful
That
to start?
that was great. That was very powerful, Latanya, and I really think you nailed it. I
Thank
want our listeners to understand that this podcast just isn't a podcast for conversation's sake.
you. Absolutely.
This is about our responsibilities as humans, as adults in the room, our commitment and making a real difference in this fight against child cancer. We're here because cancer doesn't just pause, and families don't get a break from that fight. So neither can we. We can't slow down. We
Hmm.
can't let up, and the time to do something different is really long overdue because the ways of the past, frankly, just aren't working. So, this space, this podcast is about moving from caring in theory to caring in practice, right? Because when we as a community learn that a child has cancer, it's heartbreaking, right? But all too often, that heartbreak turns to a moment of sympathy. And then life goes back to normal.
Hmm.
You might get a call here, might get a call there, visit now and again, but then silence, right?
Mhm.
This podcast exists to interrupt that pattern, to remind us that we can all do something meaningful, something that is big. But most of the time, it starts with listening, learning, and showing up in the ways that these families actually need it, not just in the ways that's easiest for us. When we want this podcast to be a place where families feel safe telling and sharing their part of their stories and their journey without a filter, without pressure, without judgment. And for those who are listening, wondering, where do I fit in? Well, you fit in by staying and by sharing, by choosing to be a part of the solution. This is just the beginning. And we're glad we're doing it. We're glad everybody's here with us. And that actually brings me to my very first shift. The very first shift I want to get to, something we all do, something we all do with good intentions, but I believe kind of needs to change. And the idea of raising awareness. Because come on, Tanya, we everybody's aware of pediatric
Yep,
cancer, right?
they sure
Everyone is
are.
aware. But
They sure are.
but what is missing is the action.
You are so right, Jason. You know, let's just stop saying raise awareness.
Right.
You know, because people already know the impacts that pediatric cancer has on our children. So let's shift the language from passive sympathy to intentional action. And we do this by fostering a nation deliberately focused on finding a cure for pediatric cancer.
Right, right.
You know, and just changing that makes a difference. When you change the wording, the actions will follow. And it's really important to move beyond that awareness and not point fingers. We're not pointing fingers at anyone because we completely understand that people really don't know what to do and what to say. But we want to make a difference by opening doors because awareness without action, guys, it's just words. And every one of us has the ability to turn care into something that truly matters. Jason, normally our podcast will be shorter. We're going to go a little longer because this is our first one, and I'm
This,
excited about that. I know you are excited
I,
about that.
I am really excited.
And just getting so I just wanted to just digress just for a second. And now I'm just going to go back to why we exist and changing that word into action.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That is why we're here.
It is. Exactly. And this podcast exists to shift that focus, to move from knowing to doing. Because knowing is easy, right?
It
It's
sure is.
it's easy to care for a moment, then turn away and go back to our lives. But children fight, who are fighting cancer in their families, they don't get to turn away.
Jason, I'm seconding that because that is so true. And that's why we as a society, we need to be more than uh you're not fighting alone cliche. We need to do more than just advocate
We do.
because advocacy alone, and don't get me wrong, advocacy matters. It matters legislatively and it matters in a fight to find a cure.
It does.
But advocacy does not provide that support and the comfort that families need to endure this horrible battle. You know, um, I know that for a fact. So here on this podcast, we're creating that space a safe space for families who are in the battle, who are in the fight, a place where they can be seen, heard, and held while also advocating for them. That type of support is priceless.
It sure is, Latanya. And giving leaders of these families an opportunity to share their stories in their words, allowing vulnerability, and most importantly, allowing the community to respond in ways families actually need, not just in the ways that feel comfortable to give. It is priceless.
And it also helps give guidance to families who are newly diagnosed. You know, there is no book, there is no instruction manual to teach parents to care for a child that has this horrible disease, the most deadly disease that to children, period. There is no guidance, there's no books, there's no instructions. And we as parents, we don't discuss that because we don't want to jinx our kids. We don't want to bring that negative energy into our lives. And we all know as adults that if you don't plan for something, when that something happens, you're going to be unprepared for it. So our goal is to share coping tools, not coping tools from us, but coping tools from families who are in the fight, who has fought or who will fight in the future. Lived experiences and resources, things someone can use themselves or pass along to a family who they know that is in the fight. I am a firm believer that support isn't about giving people what we want to give. Real support is about listening, learning, and showing up with the intention to give the kind of support the person in need wants to receive. And that brings me to the beautiful strangers philosophy. Jason, you know, I've shared this so many times in the past, and some of our viewers may also know too. But for those who don't know, I think it's important for me to share what that term means.
Yes,
And
it is.
I don't know that everyone, I'm not going to assume that everyone knows that I lost my grandson to an ependymoma of the brain, to brain cancer. He was 5 when he was diagnosed. And he was 6 when he lost his battle. He didn't even make it a year, 9 months. So that term, beautiful strangers, is near and dear to me. And I think because families who are in the fight, people who are in the fight, and the fight being pediatric cancer, you guys understand the story that we tell is not our story, but it's their story. It's their child's story. And for those of us who fight to continuously speak our child's name, or in my case, grandchild's name, as as a way to honor their memory, because they've either lost their battle and they can't tell their stories, we're telling their stories. This is our family's history, and we tell it over and over and over again. It does so many things, and one of them being it's therapeutic. And we also hope by telling our stories, their stories, that it could possibly make a difference for others who are in the fight or will be in the fight, unfortunately, in the future. So, back to the philosophy of beautiful strangers. I shared with you that my grandson was diagnosed. He was actually diagnosed on February the 3rd, and he lost his battle on November the 3rd, exactly 9 months later. And when he lost his battle, I gave up mine. I no longer wanted to be amongst the living. I became suicidal. I don't know what it was or is about my fight, but when I tell you, people that I didn't know from everywhere, from social media, from my grandson's school, from everywhere, they reached into my family's storm and they grabbed hold of our hands and they led us through that storm and beyond that storm from all walks of life, all different ages. And they surrounded me. They were like, "You are not going to fall. We won't let you." When I felt weak at my knees, they came behind me and they held me upright and they reinforced me. And a lot of these beautiful strangers, they came from my daughter. My daughter was sharing her story from a mother's point of view. And she didn't know what to do when she first found out that my poodle, Ahmad, that he lost his battle. And she just got on social media with this teary plea, and she was just begging people to pray for her because she didn't know what else to do. So, you know, that term, and I'm quite sure that most of you know who are in the fight, I'm quite sure you had your own beautiful strangers that stand behind you, that stand beside you, that don't want anything but for you to be okay. I am so grateful to these beautiful strangers. And I am here to tell you that I would not be here today had it not been for them. So the philosophy behind the term beautiful strangers, it means a person or people who love humanity and care enough to just fight and support other people without needing to know them or having to connect with them. And that is how it should be. That's how we should be, right?
Mhm.
You
Absolutely.
know, we should all care. We should care for one another. That's who I am. That's who Jason is. And that is so many people who have a mission or an alliance to something that
Mhm.
to to help humanity. It gives me great joy to be able to be considered a beautiful stranger now. You know, to someone else, a way to pay it forward because so many beautiful strangers have supported me and my family. And that's the way we thank them, by becoming a beautiful stranger ourselves and by being that, fulfilling that need of humanity, the way so many beautiful strangers were there for me. The world needs more of us, guys.
No, they do. And, every time I hear that term, beautiful strangers, I mean, it really does give me chills and it makes me proud at the same time. It really does. It resonates with me, you know, and I know it does with so many others. I personally consider it a badge of honor.
Absolutely. And you know what, Jason? The funny thing is, we when we started out, just so that people know, we were just going to go straight to the interview session. But
Mhm.
we were speaking, we were like, you know what, we need to give an introduction of who we are. And most people know that Jason and I, we run a nonprofit named after my grandson that I founded, titled the Ahmaud Butler Foundation. And although uh, the Ahmaud Butler Foundation has no ties to a Hope for a Cure podcast, other than being one of the many amazing nonprofits that we are going to
Many,
talk about.
and there's
Um,
so many.
there are so many amazing nonprofits out there that are supporting families who are in the battle, that are advocating for them. But we just wanted to give you guys a brief overview. And this brings us to my favorite part, my favorite segment of the podcast, which is the superhero segment.
Oh, amazing. I love the superhero segment.
Yes, and this is where families share what it truly means to live through this storm, and not just through it, but beyond it. So, Jason, this is actually my favorite part of the podcast. This brings us to the superhero segment where families, that are in the fight or have been in the fight get to share what it truly means to live through this storm. I had the privilege of welcoming to the show Jordan and Dajia Blount. Welcome to a Cope for the Cure podcast, guys. How are you doing
Welcome,
today?
guys.
We're good. Thanks for having us.
It
Staying
is,
warm in the weather.
oh my gosh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. So, are you guys ready?
We are.
Okay.
Ready.
Before we begin, how are you both feeling today, being here and sharing this space with us?
I definitely feel good about it. I definitely, looking at the questions, and it made us a little more emotional than I was prepared for at first. But so, yeah.
Well, thank you for trusting us with your story. Is there anything you'd like listeners to understand before we talk about Gavin and Bryson?
I would say the biggest thing is photos and videos are a great thing to hold on to during journeys.
Well,
Mine would be that um, my tears, because there will be lots of tears, don't come from just a place of sadness, but a place of honor, from being their mom and, sharing, and there they go. Um, and just knowing the kind of love that I have for my kids. So it's an honor to be able to share their story past them.
again, it's definitely an honor to hear it. And what would you like people to know about you as parents before they know your son's stories?
Um,
I would say that there's no book to help you as parents understanding each other's strengths and continuing to love each other through all the obstacles that you come through.
Tell us about Gavin and Bryson. Who were they? Their personalities, quirks, and laughs. What made them light up?
so I'll start with Gavin. Gavin was our super smart protector, kind of like the third parent in our house. He was a stickler of the rules. If we said something and his brother or sister didn't do it, he'd be like, "What did mom say?" or "What did dad say?" But he was so smart that you couldn't win an argument with him because he would correct you, and then you're standing there like, "Oh, okay." But his silliness, it shined through his dancing. He loved dancing and music and performing, and he had the best dance moves. Um, and then I will always refer to Bryson as my sweet lover boy because he was the most charming child that you would ever meet. And he had a way of making everybody understand how special they were. And even the nurses would compliment on how he would, as soon as they walked in, he'd be like, "You look so beautiful today." Or just like reminding people all the time. And there wasn't a time that he didn't crack a joke to make everybody smile or laugh. And even when I would be crying and he would say something funny and you're like, "Did you really just?" So
What are moments with them that still make you smile or laugh?
So with Bryson, we used to act out the end of Sing 2, the movie, during the final music scenes, and we used to call it the Johnny Battle song. And we used to do every single beat to that song we would dance to. and we did the same dance every single time from the beginning the song started to the very end. And we would watch the movie solely to do that part at the end. And that's all we that was our favorite part of the movie, and we did it every time. Um, for Gavin, I would say him finding a new video of pancake art on YouTube. And if I was not in the room, or if mom was not in the room, or if Bryson was not in the room, he was screaming to come get us to look at this new pancake art that he found on YouTube. And countless hours of watching pancake art, so much pancake art of them making anything you can
Spider-Man.
think of. Yeah, Spider-Man, fruit, Marvel, everything. They made it with pancake art, and we would just watch it.
Well, how were Gavin and Bryson different from each other? And then how were they alike?
I would say that Gavin was definitely our force, and he was not afraid to show it. But not like in an aggressive demeanor, but in a way that he was respected at such a young age that you were like, oh yeah, he's definitely a leader. And then Bryson was more shy, very cuddly, but they were both very proud big brothers. So
Wow, they sound amazing. And I see that you're having a difficult time, Deja. Do you need to take time? Do you guys want a break?
I'm saying okay.
You good?
Yeah,
Okay. So,
thank you though.
oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys sharing your story with everyone. You know, I know that this is the hardest thing that we could ever encounter or go through in life. So I wanna talk a little bit about how everything happened. So when cancer, when pediatric cancer entered your lives, when your children were diagnosed, can you guys just share with us how you found out? And again, if there's a question that you don't want to ask, we can pass it.
Okay. We found out through, we thought Gavin had just an ear infection, and, we had taken him to urgent care probably like 3 times that week. And then dad had been shipped out to start his deployment. And we were hosting a Halloween party, and Gavin had said no to pizza, which is a crazy thing because pizza was literally his favorite. Um, so his eyes had started crossing. He was refusing to eat, and he just wasn't himself. So I had took him to the ER. The first doctor that I had talked to had actually tried to brush it off, like as if he had just spent too much time in a tablet, and that's what was affecting him. So I actually refused to take his response. And then another doctor came in and was like, well, we're going to run CT and some blood work and, kind of do like a little more in depth. And it was about an hour after that that they came in and let us know that it was a tumor that was creating pressure on his frontal lobe, and that he actually had swelling and fluid built up in his brain called meningitis. Um, so that kind of started us with it. And then when he did end up having surgery, dad got flown off the ship. And it was about 3 weeks after his first surgery that they diagnosed it as cancer.
Boy, I'm so sorry. And I want to make sure that our audience understand that you guys went through this not just with one of your children, but with both of your sons. And Jordan, can you share your experience? Because you are a United States petty officer in the Navy, right?
Yes.
Could you please share what it was like and your experience and how you first found out about superhero kid Gavin.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a gut wrench feeling. We were on a different time zone than the United States at the time, so I was sleeping, about to wake up for work when they came and woke me up, saying that Deja was trying to get a hold of the ship. And the first thing that comes to your mind is like you're just thinking the worst, but you also are in a gray area of not knowing what is going on.
Right.
So, in shorts and in shower shoes, I'm running across the ship all the way to my shop. I get on the phone and I'm calling, but the dial out is not working because it is all run through satellite. So it is very hard to get in contact with land. So when I finally get through, the conversation is hard to have because there's a 4-second delay from what I'm saying and her hearing it. So there's also that hindrance in the conversation. And when it finally comes through that Gavin has a tumor on his brain, that's all I heard. That it was like that's all I needed to hear. I think I was on the boat maybe 4 hours after that, and they had a flight, and they flew me all the way back home. Um, and I landed at home and got in a car and drove straight to the hospital. Our family from Maryland was already in Virginia by the time I got home. Um, so, and I got to the hospital, and you're not really understanding what you're gonna walk into. I'm not understanding what exactly I'm gonna see when I get there, and I see her and Gavin. Um, and I walk in, and Gavin is coloring in a coloring book, and I'm like, I'm not understanding. Uh, so it definitely helped me take a pause and realize that he's not in distress right now. He is still a happy kid,
Right.
and I'm going to try and treat him as a happy kid. So we started coloring, we started playing matching games. I mean, me, him, and mom are sprawled out on the floor with a Hot Wheels carpet, and we're doing all kinds of things. So there was a lot of roller coasters that went through in those first, I would say, 12 hours, or I would say 10 hours, because of me being away. I'm not getting that firsthand on experience of understanding the evolution of the emotions that are involved. So everything that I'm coming up with is what I'm interpreting in my own minds, which I
Right.
think is probably in an own category of itself.
Right. Well,
And it was still COVID time.
oh,
So we were in the ICU because Gavin had tested positive for COVID.
mm,
So it just added on top of the stress of, now they're extra precautious. And, for him, it was a little more anxiety built up because they're, we're closing off the door. And every
right.
time the nurses come in, they're completely gowned up. So, he's like confused as to why it's more than just, when we were downstairs in the ER and the nurses were kind of just checking on him. So,
I didn't know that you guys went through that during COVID.
yep.
I am so sorry.
So there was
So,
that gray area too, because
oh,
no one really
Wow.
knew what COVID was at the time. So we're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
that's a lot. That had to really have been a hard ride home. You said it took 4 hours for you to get there.
Um,
The flight home.
Yeah, the flight home was probably about 4 hours, I would say. I was on the ship for about another 4 hours, and I'd probably say the flight was maybe 3.5 to 4 hours.
Ooh. So,
There were a lot of people on that ship helping make it move faster.
Yeah,
Because you what we call Red Cross first.
yeah.
It
So,
was it had to go through Red Cross for it to even be approved for him to go off. But
hmm,
all of his superiors on the ship were having things lined up so that as soon as it came through, he was out. Because there are times that it could take much longer. Some people don't get off for like a day or like more just because of the wait and having to go through everything. So they were really helping us to get them off.
Yeah, I was very grateful for how fast they got me off. They had me on the first cod. They had two flights scheduled that day, and they made sure I was on the first one off. So,
Well, kudos to your shipmates.
Yes.
Now, what do you guys wish? Just people don't know how to respond. They don't know how to act. They don't know what to say when they hear a child has cancer. What do you guys wish more people understood about what families go through when their child receives this diagnosis?
I think my biggest and first point is that St. Jude's does not accept all children,
Okay.
and they do not fight for every child's cancer that they have. Cancer is still very much a money business, and
Right.
the world doesn't stop just because your child is diagnosed, and they don't give you a chance to catch up.
Mhm.
So you just have to learn to move faster than cancer.
Do you want to add anything to that? And I'm sorry that that was the realization that you had at such a horrible time. Would you like?
that was what made it more real,
Mhm.
because our first orthopedic surgeon told us that, hey, like, you guys should contact St. Jude.
Mhm.
So he was kind of giving us a result without telling us the extent of his tumor.
Mhm.
And then when we finally go ahead and say, hey, all right, we'll reach out, and we kind of get the cold shoulder, they're not really interested, or they're not studying that at the time. It's kind of like, okay, it's not, it's not important. So I think knowledge is power, and you just have to take the no's and turn them into what can you do next.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If they are not doing current research on the
Mhm.
specific type of cancer, they will not treat you. They
Oh,
will not
wow.
see you. They do not. Now, luckily, towards the end of Bryson's, they did end up responding and giving us a couple suggestions.
Mhm.
But like you see the commercials, and it's like St. Jude's this and curing
Mhm.
cancer. No,
Mhm.
you have to fit into a certain criteria. So,
Exactly.
and having a stage 3 brain cancer that has a very low survival rate was just not enough for them.
Right. Right. And time wasn't on your side in reference to trying to find someone else.
Right.
What was your result?
We drove 5 hours to Washington, D.C. to Children's Nationalist. We paid a lot of money out of pocket to get an opinion from Boston. So
And I think a lot of people don't know that the doctors, they can't diagnose it right away. Was that the case? They, even though they know what your child's type of cancer looks like, they have to send it away to get the official diagnosis. Is that correct?
yeah, yes, it took
Wow.
3 weeks after Gavin's tumor for them to confirm the kind of cancer it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was there
That was
something?
probably the long.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, I just said I think that was probably the longest 3 weeks.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Um, just wanted to know if there was something about, and I guess this goes back to what you said when you were saying that when you got there and you saw your son and he wasn't in distress, you kind of drew strength from him, right?
Yeah.
What else about Gavin and Bryson that surprised you guys during their fight? Was it their wisdom, their humor? What surprised you about them?
For me, it was the lack of complaining. Um, they didn't complain about the things that they were missing. And, um, as their mom, like what hurt the most was thinking about what other kids were going to do and weren't, that they just weren't. Um, but they were always just worried about, how we were or how Zoe was or their cousin Kensley that they just wanted to talk to. And, they just weren't, they didn't see being stuck in the hospital or what they were going through as like a problem, or they just kept living. So
Absolutely. I know that's it. They lived in spite of their cancer.
yes,
They enjoyed life.
they
And
still fought like brothers, like crazy. They did. So they would be on FaceTime arguing, not even, one's in the hospital and one's at home, and Gavin's like, did you eat your peas, did you eat your,
oh,
and it's like he was still big brothering even though he was in the
oh.
hospital being treated.
So, and this just leads to the next question. What did they teach you? What did Gavin teach you? What did Bryson teach you guys? Because all of this, I know this is new, it's uncharted territory, but I know you've learned something from that, from your boys. What did you guys learn?
Gavin taught me to face everything with force,
Hmm.
even when I'm scared.
Hmm.
So, and then Bryson has taught me to show love and embrace the things and the people who make me feel loved and supported.
Hmm.
So,
I would say they both taught me that you can't wait for life to be hard to decide that you want to be happy, because they were
Absolutely.
going through something that I have never went through, so it's hard for me to connect on that level. And the
Sure.
fact that they were still happy through it was a testament to kid strength that a lot of adults wouldn't have.
Mm.
So, how did they change you as people, as parents, and as partners? Because statistics show too many families who have a child, in your case, children, that lose their battle. There's a struggle in their relationship in so many areas because you still have to live. You still have to care, especially if you have other children. You have to care for your other children. You have to care and love one another, but you also have to grieve. How did you guys manage to do that? And you're still here.
I would say that there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and having a support system that backs you and supports you makes it 1,000 times easier. Having a village that shows up for you,
Mm.
having Zoe that's just
Mm.
a light in the darkest tunnel that just shines through everything. It doesn't matter. She just shines. And I think us having each other and still having Zoe
Mhm.
is a true testament that good things are still able to happen even when bad things happen.
Tell us more about Zoe.
Zoe is the perfect combination of both of her brothers. She is very smart for her age. She's 4 going on about 17. So she definitely gets that from Gavin. You have to watch your wording with her because she will pick up very quickly when you fumble over your own words. And then you have to argue with a 4-year-old why you accidentally said the wrong word. So she dances like both of them if they could have danced at the same time, the combination. But she is cuddly and lovey and wants to give you a hug and a kiss and tell you she loves you 45 times a day, like Bryson. So she is very much her own in her independence, and she's very sure of who she is herself. Just embracing everything that she loves, and she doesn't do anything fearfully. Like, she's in dance and she's in cheer and she's in basketball and she's in gymnastics and she's in all these things that she just does because it's what Zoe wants to do. And she just has so much confidence, and I think that through the boys we learn to really boost hers and help her and just keep pushing her and being herself. I felt like when they were diagnosed, part of the mom thought I was going to be was taken, but just through Zoe, I learned that I don't get to choose what kind of mom I get to be. They choose because that's who I'm the mom to. So,
Well, that was a powerful statement. And I am so glad that you guys had Zoe. Hey guys. Well, we need to pause here for a minute. As you can see, this story deserves the space to be told fully and in a way that Dajia and Jordan needs to tell it. Because of that, Jason and I have made the intentional decision to share this conversation in 2 parts. I believe you guys see why. One of the things that we take pride in is the culture of the show and the superhero kids segment, the superhero segment, where families get a chance to talk about their superhero. It's protected, and we protect it with all costs. And, we want to make sure that the space that belongs to these families is not rushed. And although the first segment is supposed to be an hour long, an hour was still not enough time for the Blounts to tell their story. So rather than cutting their conversation short and their story short, we chose to honor them and to honor superheroes Gavin and superheroes Bryson. So, carrying their legacy forward is in 2 parts. We hope that not only, I don't even know, Jason, if enjoy is the right word, but we hope you guys can see the value in allowing parents and caregivers to tell their story. It is truly therapeutic. And just knowing that they can share their voice with the world, it means a lot. My husband has this saying, and he says it all the time. He says, if you don't talk or say the name of the loved one who's passed, who has died, they died twice.
Oh, wow.
So I know, because we saw both videos, but I know that they enjoyed being able to just speak of their babies. And we enjoyed listening.
Yeah.
So when I say enjoy, I don't mean it in the way that it's fun. I mean in a way that we felt like we are supporting them just by giving them our ear. Because, sometimes people just need to vent. So rather than cutting this conversation short, it will be presented in two parts. And we hope to see you guys next week, next Saturday at 3:00 on a Hope for a Cure podcast. And until then, we do ask you guys to please leave Jordan and Dajia comments, show them love, prayers, anything that you would like them to know.
But please be positive comments.
Absolutely.
I think that's
No,
so important.
absolutely. We don't allow that here.
Mm-mm.
No one should want to
The
say
courage for
something
these
negative.
families to speak up,
Absolutely.
and
And tell
we
their
need to
story.
allow them to tell the story. Correct? Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So guys, until next time. And also, sorry for the long goodbyes. And also, if you could please critique the show. This is our first episode. So we need your construction. It's not criticism. It's construction. And we want to grow with you. So until next week, I say later, Gators.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.